My parents are both immigrant, and my oldest sister, they lived in Sonora, which is like a city in Mexico, and they came when she was about 2 or 3. My dad came when she was like about 1.5 till she was 2. He came and then he went back, got my mom and sister, and came to Portland. Just growing up, like, I didn't really realize like the things that my parents like had to hide and everything. I was around 10. I don't know, I think my cousin or uncle was deported, and that's when everything, sorry, it was really scary because I called him my uncle. I actually don't know if he really is, but like he was in my childhood a lot. And so that's when I realized like my parents, that could happen to my parents or my sister. Every now and then we're still making plans about how, like, if they have to leave, what me and my older sister like have to do to like survive alone.
My personal story to immigration has to do with both family, students, and just being a human being who cares. My grandparents came over to the States in the 50s looking for an opportunity, like so many do. And thankfully they found open hearts and people who could welcome them into their homes and lives, and we're making it slowly but surely. But over the last few years, as I've taught kids who are undocumented or had undocumented parents, or just been a part of communities that really care about those among us who worry about their status, their stories, those experiences, they break my heart, but they also keep me going.
So my dad, he came to the U.S. when he was 16, 17 years old, and he crossed the border illegally. And the reason why he did that was to provide for his family back in Mexico. He tried to come legally. My dad had like no option, so he had to stay in the U.S. illegally, even though he was still an abiding citizen. My dad, he's a good man. He still paid his taxes and did all those things even though he was an illegal immigrant. So he was here, he worked his way up, he provided for his family, and then he was deported 2007. So I was around 6 years old when he was deported. I just kind of like remember the feeling, you know. I remember the good times, and then I just like all of a sudden it just went like just kind of bad. Just how hard he works, you know. Like he was my age when he came to the U.S. He started from the bottom, you know. It's a saying, but like it's just true with my dad, and he just worked his way up the chain, and yeah, I admire how hard he works. You know, I just want him to be here for at least my graduation. That'd be nice.
In my opinion, migration is an act of courage. I think of my parents. In the early 90s, my city and much of my home country were caught up in a very violent, very bloody conflict, and my parents endured 3.5 years of living under mortar shells, under sniper fire, and after a lot of thinking and a lot of heartbreak, they decided to leave their home city and find safety in Canada with their daughters. In September of 1992, I saw my own mother on CNN trying to find shelter from a sniper fire, and at first I didn't recognize her. She looked a lot thinner, she looked terrified, and that was really hard because there was nothing we could do. And after many days of living under siege, they made that courageous decision to leave. Their journey took about 5 days. There were cab rides, there was a walk under the airport through a tunnel that people had dug up. My parents were 54 and 51 years old. They didn't speak any English. They had to start their life anew, and they did. And they didn't do it alone. They did it with the help from a lot of people. They recognized in them 2 human beings that were looking for safe place to be, to love, and to feel loved, and we will forever be grateful to those kind people that saw them for who they were. They made it to France on Christmas Eve. One of the reasons that our family was under siege, they were persecuted for being Muslim. It's a really special time in our family because it was the first time for many years that my family was safe.
I was really fortunate to go to the Kino Border Initiative in February of 2018 as part of the board of directors of the Jesuit Schools Network. We spent about 24 hours down at a KBI, and I have to tell you, it was really a transformational experience. What can we do in our own communities, in our own families, in our own schools to cross new borders, to find more commonality?
As a Jesuit school, I think it's important that we do a few things when it comes to learning and advocating and fighting for justice with regard to immigration. Immigration is complicated. Some might stand by the practical. Some might stand by the heartfelt. In a school, both of those things need to connect.
I think it's really important to advocate for things that you're passionate about and things that really do affect you, and especially after my service on the border and the fact that my parents are immigrants themselves, this is something that's really important to me. So that's why at our school I try to do everything that I can. So I joined Border Solidarity Club, I went on the teach-in, and even though they're small little actions, they're still doing things that are making a difference.
We have the Hurtado Center here on campus where we teach English as a second language to Latino adults.
This school and any Jesuit school has to be a place, first and foremost, where we experience God. And yes, we do that through learning, but we also do it through community. I think one thing any student can do is we gotta learn someone's story. And so for those who feel disconnected or that it doesn't affect them, I would compel them. I would absolutely expect, as a priest, as a Jesuit, as a teacher, expect them to go out and create an opportunity to learn and hear someone's story.
You don't necessarily have to go to the border to learn about immigration. You can just talk to the people in your community to humanize this issue.
We seek to experience God, not only in those who identify as undocumented or have parents or family members that might be, but because God is working in all of us, calling us to come together. As a human being, as a Jesuit, I think it's important that we understand our call to be men and women for and with others compels us to pay attention to those who are hurting. In today's world, immigrants are very much a part of that.
If we're really faithful to the missions of all of our schools and all of our Jesuit high schools, not only in the U.S., and we've got 60 of them, and there's about 800 across the world, we have a very similar mission, and that is to reach out to communities, to be bridges, to cross these borders, and to really to form women and men for others.